Hello, Miss Katrina. Thank you for being here.
Hello, how are you?
Fine, thank you. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well today.
We
Happy
appreciate
Sunday.
Happy Sunday, and we appreciate you being here, sharing your life with us.
Thank you for having me. Most
Well,
definitely. We're grateful.
no, thank you. We really appreciate it. Well, let's begin. Please share with us about your pre-high school years.
Okay, so actually, I was raised in Shafter, California, which is a little town outside of Bakersfield, and it is a little country town. I went to Richland Elementary School there. And so basically, I was a little country girl before my parents decided to move to move back to Los Angeles back in the 86. So it's kind of like a little culture shock being a country girl, then moving to the big city, and then going to a school within the inner city was a dramatic change. Actually, it was like a culture shock, to be honest. So, coming from a little town that uh, it was a small town. The minority were were Caucasian, so it was only a few Black people in the town. And so to move to the big city and then have it flip to where now the Blacks were the majority, it was like a culture shock.
And
It
what
was
was
a big
that?
difference.
Yes. And what was that experience like for you?
It was, I'm gonna be honest, it was hard at first to make the adjustment for several reasons. One, there's a different dynamics with education within the inner city and outer city districts. I noticed that the inner city schools were further behind than the districts that's outside of the city. So it was kind of, I was in the seventh grade, but was doing fifth grade work in the inner city. And
Wow.
then just getting familiar with my culture. I was in the Cindy Lauper, the Cars, and Culture Club, Madonna. So coming into the inner city and getting introduced to hip hop and R&B music, it was a shock. And also um, understanding the poverty level within the city and within the inner city was huge.
Yes, the poverty level is really high. Really, really high.
Very high.
There's a big difference, especially when you're coming from Bakersfield, which sounds like it's a really small town feel, to a big city such as South LA. It's a big difference.
It's a huge difference because when you're raised in a small town, Bakersfield is kind of it's a small city, but it's still country. But we was more out. We was really in the country where with the cotton fields and the almond trees. Chapter population back then, if it was 20,000, I may be exaggerating. But when you're in a small town, everybody know everyone, and it's like in a smaller town there's more of a community feel, and it didn't matter what color you was, everybody just loved on each other and everybody looked out for each other. Versus moving to the inner city, it felt more like a lot of competition. Who had who had on the best clothes, who wore the best shoes, who had on the most expensive gear. And that was one of my big issues because in Shafter, I was one of we was preppy kids. I wore my pants rolled up and I had my little Michael Jackson buttons and Culture Club buttons. And in the inner city, it was about Fila's and Adidas and hip hop. And it was about what you had, not about who you were.
Big change for sure. What a big change. And what was it like for you growing up in South LA as a teenager?
We had a lot of fun, but it was tough back there, back in the in the late 80s and the early 90s. We had a lot of gang violence. a lot of drive-by shootings. I lost a few friends that didn't even make it out of high school that were murdered. So, we have to deal with that aspect of life, being in the inner city, being in South Central LA. But I should say, however, um, but we had structure. And what I mean by structure is that you had your neighborhood looking after you. Everybody looked after one another. And you had your elders and your aunties and your godmamas. You always have someone to steer you in the right direction. You always have someone to talk to. It's like you had extended family outside of your family. Even though we was going through the drama and the struggles and dealing with poverty, it's like we still had that love for one another, the respect for one another. And that's what God put pretty much of us through.
Times are definitely different now than they were then. And we need that community. That community is really important to look out for our youth, where gang violence still exists in South LA.
It really does. And then, and the generation now, I was just speaking at one of our sponsorship dinners, is that our young people are not covered. As I was saying earlier, we had our parents, and if we didn't have our parents, we had our grandparents or our aunties, uncles, cousins, play cousins, you name it. We had someone to look after us. You didn't see the homeless crisis back then like you do now. If you couldn't stay with your mama or your daddy, you had your grandmama, which is the Medias and the big mamas. And if you couldn't stay with Medea and big mama, you had your aunties or your play cousins or the neighbors. You had somebody that would take you in and would feed you, to where now today people don't want to be bothered. And I'm talking about families now. I'm talking about your own blood family. You could be going through a situation and people don't have time. They don't want to be bothered. They have their own problems. So if they don't have time to deal with you, then you're out in the streets. And then that leaves our young people lost and broken, because they truly don't have that structure like we did.
I was going to ask you, what do you think has changed from, those days when we were growing up in South LA to now? And thank you for sharing that. That is true. A lot of our own families don't want to be bothered with, there's just so much going on in the world. Everybody has something to worry about.
Exactly.
Yeah, thank you.
And then and then we have to look at it too. A lot of the people that we came up with now have died off. Our grandmothers are gone, the grandfathers are gone, the Uncle Joes and the Auntie Shirls. A lot of people have passed on. So our foundation for us, our generation, I'm gonna speak on the 70 generation, is we don't have that anymore as adults, because they have left. So it falls on us to bring that back to the community, to bring that love, that structure, that respect, that dignity. It falls on the 70 Club to get this out to our young people and really truly start loving on them and giving them guidance.
I agree. Thank you for sharing. What are your most memorable high school moments?
Wow. I have plenty. My most memorable was playing on the basketball team, being a Lady Pathfinder. Our coach back then was Matt Taylor, who has now passed on. He passed on a few years ago from a brain tumor. He had cancer. And I was just telling DJ Trey this the other day, that, Matt was like a father. He was like a surrogate father to us. He was a father, a counselor, whatever problems we was going through, it's just something we could always talk to Matt, and he truly loved on us, and he gave us that structure. He gave us the discipline within basketball. He always encouraged us to do better. And he most definitely empowered us, because he wasn't just a coach. He was also my English lit teacher. So to have him as a coach, but to also have him as my English literature teacher was even better, because he really taught us about real life, what to expect when we graduated from high school. And he's the only teacher I really know or have known to really sit in the class and tell you what to expect. You know, he actually did this in the class. He said, I want you to look around at everyone that's sitting in the classroom today. And he said, I want you to take a really good look. He said, now 5 years from now, some you will be in contact with, some you won't. 5 years from now, some will be living and some will not. And he said, 10 years from now, everyone in the classroom, you may still be in contact with, but some may be done passed on, some may be done moved on. And it was something while he was sitting there in the class. I remember us saying, oh, we always gonna stay in contact. We ain't gonna never lose count. You know, this is my homegirl, my homeboy, blah, 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 blah. We got that love with you, boo. And then he was like, but life happens. Come on, God. That was the thing that he had said. Life happens. Life takes different turns. And as you grow older, you change. And he was so right. And I think all teachers need to be speaking that to the students because that's the truth. And I think it would prepare a lot of young people of what to expect when you come out of high school.
Yes.
You know, giving it to them real about, you know, what we're facing when we step into adulthood. Because it's a whole different transition. It's like a shock. You know, it's being a kid one day, and then now the law said you're an adult the next day.
It is a big shock. Because once you turn 18, you're considered an adult. But
Correct.
If no one is there to prepare you, it's a challenging transition. And
Exactly.
it's definitely a challenging transition, especially from high school to the individuals, the youth that do choose to go to, whether it's a community college or, you know, university or a private school or trade school. It's a big shock because you're trying, if you don't have a solid family system at home, you're on your own trying to figure all those things out, and it's hard.
It's very hard. And that's one thing I want to say about Fremont and our teachers, especially like the Career Center. What they did for us, they came to the class, they taught to us about college, they taught us about financial aid, they even taught us how to fill out our own financial aid application. And that's what's missing today. We really need to be preparing our children, our students for what's going to happen after high school, which is known as real life, you know, and telling the truth that, you know, when you go to college, not everybody going to finish college. You know, there's going to be life obstacles, and preparing them for different decisions that they may have to face or make when they come out of high school. And I just want to give kudos to the Fremont Pathfinder staff for doing that for us, you know, and preparing us for work and encouraging us to go out there and get jobs. You know, we had the Career Center. I worked every summer, you know, because we had a summer program where you could sign up and get jobs, you know, right through the school. And those things are no longer available.
No, a lot of things were taken away. Yeah, you're right. Those things were so important to help our youth prepare, or at least help them transition, make things a little bit smoother for them. Thank you for sharing. I wanted to talk a little bit more about Coach Taylor, because he was such a big impact in so many lives. Was there also other teachers that inspired you to push through all the challenges you were facing as a teenager and in high school and everything going on in the community?
You know, it was Matt and also Miss Wills. Miss Wills was actually our computer teacher. And she was another one that gave it to us real. All I loved about Miss Wills is she didn't play around. You know, if you was coming in our classroom and cutting up, she was calling your parents. You know, I was telling Trey, because Trey Sean and I, we go way back, but also Trey Sean is the sister of my best friend, Tamanika Perkins. So we all grew up together, and I was sharing with Trey about how Miss Wells had to call her mom, call Tammy mom, and she did it so smoothly. She gave the warning, and then she walked out the classroom, went over to the conference room, and came back. And 15 minutes later, there was Miss Brenda coming into the classroom. We all sitting like, "Who mama is that?" I knew who the mama was. But we need that. We need that guidance, because once Mama Brenda came to the classroom, that was it. It wasn't no more cutting around, playing around, not just for Tamanika, but for the whole entire class. Because we knew that she was serious about learning, and that if it came down to contacting parents, she was going to do that. She was going to talk with us. She was going to give us that lecture. But if it came down to where we just wasn't getting it, then she was going to make that call home. And sometimes we need that.
Yes, we definitely do. We need tough love at times.
Yes, we do.
Well, thank you for sharing. What was your path after high school?
Well, I really wanted to become, I always wanted to be a psychiatrist for whatever reason. I always had I always had an interest for the mind, for the brain, how the brain function. And I've been like that since I was 8 years old. But when I graduated from high school, I actually went to Ryman College in Phoenix, Arizona. And at 19, I graduated with my medical assistant diploma. And I worked as a medical assistant for over 10 years. And that was something that took me a long way. I saw a lot, I learned a lot, worked in different hospitals, different doctors' offices. So that was something that was I was grateful for to accomplish so young at the age of 19. And then I decided to go back to school to do nursing, and took the classes for nursing. And at this time I was married, and I told my husband, I said, "Okay, I'm gonna take the exam for the nursing program." Took the exam, aced the exam, went down there and met with the director of nursing to pick up my packet. And when I got there, I said, "You know what? I really don't want to do this." And she looked, because when you take those exams, you take all those classes, that waiting list for the nursing program. And so she looked at me like, "Well, you scored a high score." I said, "But this is something I don't want to do." And I feel like, as I want to tell the young people, if it's not your passion, don't do it, because you're not going to enjoy it. You're going to get up every morning and you're going to regret it. You're going to regret getting up, going to that job, if it's something that's not going to feel fulfilling to you at the end of the day. So I said no, went home and told my husband. He almost flew out the back door. And I told him the reason why. And I said, I've been doing medical now for over 10 years. I done seen everything. Once you see death, I said, once you see death, that's it for me. What is else to learn on this level as far as growth? And I decided to go back to school to become a social worker. And that's what I did. So I went back and went back to school to study social work, and got my degree. And I got into social services at Value Options. That was actually my first job, working in mental health. And working in mental health in a social services realm is something powerful, because a lot of people who are dealing with mental issues or mental health, a lot of people suffers homelessness. Because they can't manage their household, if they're symptomatic, if they're not taking their medications and they're hallucinating, it makes it very difficult for them to live a life where they can actually maintain and take on the responsibility for themselves. So it was a challenge that I'm glad that I accepted and went into.
What do you think is causing the increase of homelessness? One of them sounds like if it's related to mental health, there's a more likelihood that the individual will end up homeless. what other contributing factors do you think are out there that are causing so much of it?
Well, now in this day and time, back in the day, that was the stigma on homelessness, was everybody had a mental problem, so they would label them as crazy, or they would say they was on drugs. And so if they was on drugs and they was crazy, they was just homeless. That was the stigma. But here in 2022, that's not the case. We have people that are homeless due to cost of living. We now have our elders who are homeless because they priced into homeless. They are retired, they're receiving their SSI or their SSDI, and senior living apartment complexes that was built for them 20 years ago that met their income bracket is now overpriced out of their income. So, for example, out in Rancho Santa Fe, back in the day in 94, those units for 1 bedroom were $550 a month. And that's a senior community. Today in 2022, that same 1 bedroom unit is now $1,500. Most people who's retired or receiving SSDI, the max that they're receiving is between $1,200 and $1,400 a month. So they can't afford their own rent within their own community. So you have the elders now in homelessness. You have our young people who's coming out of high school, phasing out of foster care. There's no job programs in the high schools anymore. There's no, they don't have the guidance from the guidance counselors like we did back in the day. So they coming out, they're not working, or they didn't never receive that structure, or they lost and they turned directly to the streets. So you have a high of young people homeless, not including the college students who is going to school, trying to better their lives, but they can't even afford the cost of living and try to maintain school full time. So it's so many barriers to homelessness in 2022.
I agree. There's a lot. We don't realize with everything increasing, but everything else remains the same. So why aren't we increasing SSSDI for our elders so they're not homeless? We should increase those things as well to help individuals.
Right. And that's the thing, that we need to be looking at services, for our homeless community. We do have the mental health component that needs to be, we need services most definitely for that. We have the substance abuse issues. But when we're talking about our elders, you're 100% right. It should be an increase in SSDI. Senior community living should be what is exactly called senior community living. So those apartments should be affordable for our seniors. Then we have families. We have families that's out there, and we really have limited services for families. You have families living in their cars, families sleeping in the park, and that's due to the high cost of living here in California. A 2 bedroom is over $2,000 a month. But if you're only making $2,000 a month, how can you afford your rent? So we need to look at homelessness as a whole and look at the barriers of homelessness and look at how we could change the dynamics. And some people have been homeless so long, they don't even know or remember how to cook, clean, manage their finances. So we need a lot of programs that offer shared housing with supportive services, so we can help people take ownership back over their lives. Some people fall down, and falling down doesn't mean you always have to stay down. It's just how you get back up is what counts. And some people need assistance with getting back up. And that's what we should be doing, is offering assistance to help people get back up. And that means putting services into play to help them navigate through their journey of taking back their life.
Thank you so much for sharing that. One of my questions was going to be, what do you think needs to happen for homelessness to become non-existent? And it sounds there's a lot of barriers that need to be broken, where
Exactly.
the same old system is not going to work with everything that's going on in today's society.
True.
Thank you for being out there and being a guidance and being a voice to everyone who's experiencing homelessness. Thank you. Please share with us about changing the faces of homelessness and what are your goals through your nonprofit.
So Changing the Faces of Homelessness is a permanent supportive housing program. And what we do, we provide case management services. We provide independent living skills, medication monitoring if needed, assistance with employment, going back to school. And we go out and we conduct outreach out on Skid Row and in other areas within LA County. And if someone or individuals who's ready for housing with a mindset ready to change, we bring them in the program and we help them reestablish themselves. If they need assistance with getting on GR, to apply for the pilot voucher to cover their room and board fees, we assist them with that. If they need assistance applying for SSI or SSDI, we assist with that. If they, trying to go back to work, we do whatever we can to help them get back on their feet if they want it. So we sit down with them and we develop what we call housing stability plans. And they tell us the goals that they want to work on, and we help them develop a plan to meet their goals. And that's what's really needed out here, is where we're sitting down with the community, we're listening to their stories, because we have to remember it's their life. It's their life, it's their life journey, it's their success. And a lot of people just want us to hear them versus tell them, you got to go here, you got to go there, you got to do this, you got to do that. They want us to hear what happened and then help them navigate through the situation and be a support. So what our program does, we provide those supports, we provide those resources, and a lot of people come into the program and they take ownership back over their lives. We have 2 programs. We have our TAY program, which is from 18 and older, from 18 to 30. And that is our young male program for people that's coming out of high school, people facing out of foster care, or just young men that just lost their way and need that guidance, need that structure, need that support. And we bring them into the program. We develop their HSP, and then they go out there and they start working on their goals. And the young men that we have right now today in our program, all of them are working. They're self-sufficient, and they're moving towards what we call independent housing. Because I truly believe, as a provider, as a caseworker, is that shared housing shouldn't always be your housing. Everybody deserves to have their own. But to have your own, you have to be willing to put the work in. And that's the hardest part, because a lot of people don't have the motivation. A lot of people are broken. A lot of people are dealing with family issues that has broken them. So it's hard to move to the next level if you balance a lot of stuff within yourself. So that's what we bring. That's what we bring to the table for our residents, for the people that we serve on the street, is helping them with the healing process.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for all your work. What advice would you give to students experiencing homelessness and living out of their cars, studying out of their cars, and just helping their families cope with the challenges they're facing? What advice would you give them?
I would tell them not to give up, to keep going, to keep pressing. I know it's very frustrating to be homeless. What a lot of people don't understand is that soon as you hit the street and you lose your house, kind of going back to the stigmatism of homeless, mental illness, and drug addiction. When you don't have a roof over your head, the first thing that you enter into is depression, because you're outside. You have no structure. So the first thing that you're dealing with is depression and anxiety. And yeah, our young people, this generation today, that's one of their biggest things that they have to carry, and I should say that they have to carry, because they coming out of high school, they're coming into minimum wage jobs, and they coming into a cost of living that truly not price them out. You know, back in the day, we can graduate from high school, we can go get a job working at McDonald's, and get a roommate to go get a 1-bedroom apartment and be good. But now you're coming out of high school or even college, and you're making $17 an hour, but your rent $2,500. You need several roommates, not just one, but several. So in this process, for our young people that is struggling, is to keep moving, to keep working, reach out for resources. And I know that's very hard in LA County, because a lot of people feel like the resources are there, but they're not receiving them. And that is true. You know, there's a lot of a lot of agencies are short staffed. Being able to continue to do follow up with them on a regular basis is very difficult when individuals are homeless, because you got to try to find them. But I tell the ones that if you're ready, if you really want to come off the street, stay persistent. Stay persistent and keep knocking on those doors. Keep knocking on those doors until you get a yes. And then once you get that yes, put the work in, because only you can change your life. No one else. And I tell my clients, I tell our residents all the time that you are the narrator of your story. So you tell the story how you want to tell it. Because what we do is we get complacent, and we begin to talk to people, and we begin to tell people things. And the next thing you know, they go tell your story. And then by the time it get back to you, what you said wasn't what you said. So it's best to move in silence. Keep going until you get a yes. Don't stop. Don't give up on yourself. It can be very painful at times. And I'm not just speaking just because I'm a CEO or a Fremont graduate or a person with a college degree. I'm speaking from experience. That it was many times I fell down. I was homeless. I lost my house, and the first thing I entered was depression, stress, anxiety, trying to figure out, okay, God, how I'm gonna maneuver through this. So I had to make a decision to, number one, to get back up. Number two, accept accountability of that I did it to myself. So that's another thing, accepting ownership. It's our lives. And sometimes we put our own selves in situations by decisions that we made. So accepting ownership, and then moving forward and knocking on doors until you get a yes.
How did you persevere from, when you were homeless? How did you, and you were facing depression, how did you move yourself out of that to where you are today? What helped you?
God. That was the first thing. First it was taking ownership of what I did, realizing that what I was doing wasn't working. Some decisions that I made have put me in my own homeless life, not managing my money correctly. And then I lost my father. So when I lost my father, that kind of put me in a dark place. And I realized that I had to get out, especially when I lost my house. When I lost my house, I was like, okay, God, I ain't never been homeless a day in my life. But now here I am on the sidewalk in this situation. And I had to make a decision to learn from my own mistakes, from my own doings. And once I made that decision, I prayed to God and I told the Lord, I said, Father God, Jesus, if you get me out this situation this time, I will not put myself back into this situation, and I will truly learn from this lesson. And that's what's important, learning from our lessons. Things that we go through in life are really truly lessons. But We have to be the ones to learn from them, to learn from our own mistakes so we don't make them again. And I just chose to get up. I chose to get up, and I was determined. I was determined to turn my life around. I was determined to move forward. I was determined to take on those life challenges, and I was determined to deal with the pain. And that's huge, because a lot of people, we are afflicted by pain because people say they love us, but turn around and hurt us. So we get love confused. Because if you love me and you're doing things to hurt me, I'm going to relate pain to love. So it's about now changing your whole mindset. Because no mindset change, no lifestyle change. And that's what it was, just changing my mindset, realizing that it was me, understanding it was me, taking that lesson and learning from it, and deciding to move forward.
Wow. Thank you so much for being open with us and sharing and helping our youth with your words, because there are many who are facing homelessness. There are many who are walking in this path alone, without any guidance and support. And your words of, you persevered. So you're a hope and a light to all our youth out there who are experiencing the same thing. And that whole concept of love that you were speaking of, we're not always taught what love really is if we're not growing up in a loving, positive environment. So thank you for sharing that as well. Love's supposed to be kind, right?
Right.
Love is kind, love is generous, love is humble. But it's not supposed to hurt you.
Exactly. And the thing is, and that's my thing, if you're growing up in an environment where experience love is all your experiences pain since day one, you don't even know how to receive love. And I find that a lot with the young people that we work with in our program, is that it's very difficult for them to receive love because a lot of them come from broken homes. Some come from abandonment. So they've been abandoned. Some of them lost their parents at a young age. So it is being able to receive it and even a process what love really means and what it feels like. Because if you ain't never been treated kind all your life and someone treats you kind, usually people walk away from that because it scares them, because they're being used to being mistreated. And that's why it's so important to walk with God, because when you walk with God, people can see your light. They can see that you're genuine. And that's how people receive it. When they see that you're truly genuine, people will connect with you. And that's what it's really all about, getting back to the basics, getting back to love and respect. And I said, once we get back to that, we'll see a big, big change. But we have to be genuine of what we're doing. Genuine when we really truly out here working with the community, working with people, is letting them know that we truly do care. We do care about you, but we have to show it. We just can't say, oh yeah, I care about you, I love you. No, you have to show. And it's simple. It's just simple. If you out here and you're doing something and you sit down with an individual and you hear their story and you say, you know what, I heard what you said. And you know what, I believe in you. Do you know how many people light up, how many young people light up just to hear someone say, I believe in you?
Those words are very important to hear.
You know, they're powerful. The words are more powerful than a hit. And actually, I was just talking to our young people about this the other day, is that words, verbal abuse is worse than physical abuse. Because you hit me, I'm going to feel the pain. It's going to sting a little bit, but I'm going to heal from that bruise. But when you hit me verbally, now you're attacking my soul. And that's a whole different concept, because we make or break people by the words that we say. If you tell an individual and some young people, even back in our day, you'll never be nothing. I mean, they get this from home. You'll never be nothing. You're just like your mommy. You're just like your daddy. You'll never have nothing. Well, if you've been telling a person that since day one, when they become of age, they're going to believe they'll never have nothing. They'll never be nothing. I'm just like so and so and so. Versus telling them, I love you. You can. You will. You can do this. You can do that. If you put your mind to it, introducing positive things into their lives. But if it's always negative, then the result 9 times out of 10 is going to be negative. And in the family, the parents, family, friends, and whoever is in the circle, they want to get mad and agitated at the individual because of the outcome. But the outcome is because of what you said. You said I was never gonna be this. You said I would never prosper. You said I would never have anything. Since day one. And as children are programmed. Their minds are like sponges. Every information that you feed them, it stays in the mind. That resonates to the soul.
It really, really does. And you're right, changing our mindset, especially for the youth that are in broken homes, or those of us who have been in broken homes, it really is about changing your mindset and reframing what you were taught. It takes time to heal from our wounds, and it takes time to reframe our mindset. But those things are very important to do. So thank you for all your work you're doing with our youth as well.
Thank you. And it's very important. And that's one thing that we had back in the day when I was speaking about being covered. If you came from a broken home and your family had a lot of issues, a lot of drama, you always had your friends' family. See, it was always someone that you can count on. So if you wasn't getting the love and the nurturing over here, then you can go to your best friend's house and get that love and nurturing from there. But today, that doesn't exist. And that's what we need to bring back. That's why I do what I do. That's why I love what I do, because that's what I'm bringing back. Is bringing back that you may not be getting it in the streets. You may not even get it at home. But when you come into this program, you're going to get love. You're going to get respect. You're going to get treated with dignity. You're going to get structure. And you're most definitely going to get God, because I rock with him 24/7, 365. Because God is love. That's what he is. And so if we just get back to the basics of God is love, we'll see a big difference within our community,
Well, thank you so much for sharing about changing the faces of homelessness, your words of encouragement, your experience as well. Thank you so much. And I wanted to ask you, were there any other words of wisdom that you want to share with us, or anything else that you would like to share?
Well, there's a few things. We do have our first annual basketball tournament, which is brought to you by CFM Radio Show. And CFM stands for Changing the Frame of Your Mindset. And that is a hip hop, R&B, gospel radio show that DJ Trey and I do once a week on Thursdays live on IG. And we bring the music that heals the soul. So this year we wanted to do a fundraiser to raise money for our community events. Our next event that's going to be coming up is going to be the Breakthrough event that is brought by CFH. And that's held every year on Skid Row. And we go down to Skid Row, we block the streets off, we bring the stage, we bring food, we bring clothing, and we bring housing. And we bring life back to Skid Row at the Breakthrough events. So we wanted to do something fun with our radio show. And we wanted to bring it back to Fremont, since we are graduates. I'm class of 92. Trey is class of 94. And we both were ballers on the Lady Pathfinders team. And we wanted to do something that was going to be fun, not just for us, but for the whole entire community, whether you're homeless or not. So we're calling all Pathfinders, no matter what class you graduated from, all Pathfinders, come on down and support us. We want to have a good time. We want to raise money so we can continue to do what we do, is go out there and support our communities. DJ Trey and I just took the CFM radio show on 4-4 to St. Julian Park, and we went out there, we did the cookout, and we brought the hip hop gospel sound, and we had a couple of celebrity guests to come out there, like B. Mike Rob from BET and NAB Radio. And we came out there and we had a ball to give back to our community, because it's important to let people know that just because you're homeless doesn't mean life has stopped. You know, people remember having the cookouts back in the day. People remember having those family times, you know, with their families and listening to music and enjoying one another. You know, socializing is important. And that is truly getting back to the basics. So that's what we're doing. And that's on June the 11th. So we're asking everyone to come out to support us. If you want to be a player, you can get the forms on our website, on Changing the Faces of Homelessness website, which is www.cfh20201.org. And you can get the registration forms and the waiver forms as well. Also, we call it the vendors. If you are a vendor and you want to, you know, come out and sell food, if you want to sell your drinks, or if you got T-shirts or clothing items, come on out. We have the vendors come out at no charge, and all we're asking is for a 5% donation of your sales. So this is something that we want to do for all ages, 7 and up. And we just want to bring it back to Monttown and just get back to the basics. Sometimes we need to step out of our life, our adult life, and kind of take it back. Because I've really been having fun reminiscing about my high school days and the things that we did, like the pep rallies. So come on out.
That is so awesome. We're looking forward to your event. That is beautiful. Thank you so much for everything you're doing. Wow. I'm speechless. There's so much I want to say. Your stories, everything you're doing is just so inspiring. And you're giving back to your community, which is really beautiful. And we need more Pathfinder alumni doing that.
Yes, and yes, we do. You know, we had, you know, I know I was on Facebook and it was talking about the Deuce Mob, which is one of the groups that was in my class, and it's time for their 30-year reunion. So we just want y'all to just come on out to the basketball tournament, and let's just, you know, bring the Deuce Mob in and let's have a good time, because we have lost some Pathfinders during the pandemic. You know, we lost quite a few. So we're not getting no younger, we're getting older. And since we now are coming out of the pandemic, this would be a amazing opportunity to have a great time, to reunite with one another and have some fun.
That's right. Thank you so much for everything. And for everyone that is listening, please look up Changing the Faces of Homelessness on the internet and on Instagram. What is your Instagram?
Our Instagram is IGCFH20201. And we just got our Instagram up for the CFM radio show. So our CFM radio show IG is CFM 2022.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your life with us. We appreciate your time. Is there anything else you want to share with us? Any other words you want to leave us with?
You know, I just want to leave everyone with a word of encouragement, especially to our young people. Stay strong, believe in yourself. And I know it's very hard to believe in yourself if you've been raised in broken homes, or people told you they didn't like you or didn't love you. But, you know, just try this one day. Just look in the mirror and just look at you and just tell yourself you love yourself. Because the first person that you need to love is you. Once you start loving you, then everything else will fall into place. Because when you love yourself first, it's not too much stuff you're going to take from anybody else. You know, I tell people all the time, I put people on the block book. You know, and it took a long time to get to that position, to say that your energy, your negativity, your talk, how you coming at me, it took a lot to say, you know what, I ain't got to deal with that. I don't have to listen to that, because what you're doing is you bringing down my energy. You taking away my concentration from where I'm trying to go. So now that we're in 2022, just put them on the block button. Back in the day, we used to just, we have to run and hide and dodge folk. You ain't got to do that now. Just put them on the block button and keep it moving and focus on yourself, because only you can make a better you.
Thank you, Miss Katrina, and thank you for your words of encouragement, and thank you for your time and sharing your day with us and your life. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for having me. We're super excited. Is it Nadia? Did I pronounce it right?
It's Nada.
Nada. So, Nada, thank you for having me, and also with Trey. We're just super excited and giving us this opportunity to come on here and to share our life journey is amazing, and to have this platform is phenomenal, because there's a lot of us that graduated from the inner city that was told that we wasn't gonna do nothing, we wasn't gonna be nothing, and all we was gonna do is be out here and be on crack and on dope. But it's many of us that made it through. There's many of us that are CEOs, district operators, that own our own businesses, that own our own real estate. There is so many of us out there that really took that negativity, took that negative energy, and flipped it on top of their head, and we went out and we became somebody. So if we can do it, you can do it too.
That's right. That's very, very powerful what you just said. And all of your stories are very important. And I feel like, and we feel like all of our youth need to hear you, need to hear your journeys and your stories. All of you have stories of perseverance, and they're so inspiring. And we just want our youth to know that, as you said, we believe in you. You can do it. You can rise from the brokenness that you're living through, that you're going through, and you can change that frame of mindset. So thank you so much. We appreciate you, and also Trey. Thank you so much. Thank you to both of you. And thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you so much.